As a professional jockey, Joan Phipps didn't spend many years aboard a horse. Fortunately, she made the most of the one she did. In a career that only lasted 10 years, Phipps won more than 200 races around the world. She was recognized as the top female jockey in Canada in the mid-1970s. Before the wins and the world travel, there was the Saskatoon Exhibition Grounds.
Well, my first experience with the horse itself was when I was about 2 years old. My grandmother pushing me in Saskatoon at the exhibition grounds and showing me inside the pavilion. They had a stalls of horses, and then she brought me to this one horse, and it brought its head down, and I put my hands up on its nose, and I could feel the breath of it, and I wasn't afraid, and my grandmother obviously knew that I wasn't going to get hurt. And then she would tell me these stories about her being raised on the farm, and my mom told me stories about riding to school on horses and all the experiences she had with that. And that's how I think I got the interest in horses. So then I lived close to the exhibition grounds in Saskatoon, and I would whip up there and hang out.
It wasn't long before she was hooked. She started with horse shows and moved on to other riding events. In her teens, she turned her attention to thoroughbred racing, so she quit school and moved to Winnipeg.
And I really didn't know anything about a thoroughbred or anything about being a jockey. But once I got to the racetrack, I realized it's a world of little people. And I really thought I could do it, you know? And that was a bit of a journey, because they just, my friend Karen Chiswick and Pat Hosey, they came, and we were out looking for jobs in the morning, and boom, they both got jobs working with the horses, but they wouldn't give me a job. I was too small. So they would only, not riding them, but they would only let me walk them. And so I was just this little squirt walking these horses, I mean, flying around the shed row on the end of the shank. And then they went, oh, maybe we'll put you in the stall. And then one thing led to another, and there was a powder puff derby.
After a Winnipeg trainer gave her an opportunity to ride, she was soon winning races against male and female jockeys. Phipps was the leading rider in 1972 to 73 at Marquise Downs in Saskatoon, where she competed until 1976. She also rode in Regina and Winnipeg during that same period. By 1973, she was competing at Woodbine Racetrack in Toronto. Among her highlights was defeating the 1972 champion filly. Phipps added to her accolades that same year when she became the first woman to ride in a Canadian Triple Crown event in the Breeders' Cup. 2 years later, she received her first taste of international competition after becoming the first female jockey invited to race in Trinidad. Phipps added to that experience over the years. Representing Canada, she won the 1976 and 1977 Brazil Ladies International World Championship Series. In 1977, Phipps was invited to a women's race in New Zealand. However, the intent of her invitation was much greater than that. At the time, women jockeys in New Zealand were not allowed to race against men in thoroughbred races. Leslie Jones, a female jockey in New Zealand, had long advocated the rights for women to race men. With Jones' history as a journeyman jockey, it was felt now was the time to challenge the ruling before the New Zealand Racing Conference.
And that was a big deal. They did not want me there. Big, huge table. Could hear a pin drop, 11 men, one stipendiary steward, Linda Jones and her husband behind me going, they said, we're going to allow you to ride, but you're going to have to drop your stirrups down to our men's length. Now, I had just won the lady series there. The same stewards. My stirrups normal, American style. And then I went, I got a little cocky and I went, well, you don't invite somebody over to dinner and tell them how to eat, do you? And then I got this jab in the back, Linda, in the back, Joan, just do it. I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll drop my stirrups. All right. So we go out, the jockeys don't talk to me. Nobody talks to me. They got this little room with a curtain. That's my jockey's room. The riders wouldn't even look at me, none of them. And I get out there and I ride the preliminary, which is the post parade, and I drop my irons way down. Now my feet are flopping and I'm feeling but I did it for them. I did it in front of the grandstand. I go to the back of the gate and I went, they probably can't see me from here, and I said, just walk me, before I went in the gate, I said, the guy was leading, I said, just walk me this way, and I jacked up this stirrup. And I just walked around, jacked up the other stirrup, went right in the gate, we broke. And I was way out in the, 10 horses wide, broke on the turn, and I reached down and whacked my horse a couple times, zoomed up to the front, and I pulled my horse back in behind 2 leaders, and I was on the rail. And I stayed on the rail, and the past performance of the horse was it always stopped. It didn't figure. It was going to stop at the head of the lane. It had a little bit, but nothing. But the horse had never been hit left-handed. And we were going the opposite way of the racetrack on turf. And so we came around to the leaders just about ready when she was cheating, going to stop. She was cheating. And I reached down and just tapped her left-handed. And it was like, boom! She took off again and came right up beside them. I reached down and hit her one time here and then another time here and nosed the 2 leaders out. And I won the race by a nose.
Knee injuries brought an end to Phipps' career in 1982. She returned to the sport in 1985 and continued making history as the first female steward in Canada before retiring in Toronto in 1988. Phipps was inducted into the Saskatoon Sports Hall of Fame in 1996. Installed in the Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame on September 30th, 2017, Joan Phipps.